Hey everyone, first a huge thank you to Draper, Goren, Holm for producing this event, as well as all their other leading crypto events that give individuals across the globe front row seats into this unfurling, exciting, world-changing, tech-driven financial revolution. These are exciting times. I'm Dara Albright. I'm the host of the D-Wealth News podcast. And it is my honor to moderate this all-star panel that will be discussing the current state of DeFi on the Tezos blockchain. Now, although DeFi on the Tezos blockchain is still in its infancy, many of these platforms are gaining rapid success, so much so that Tezos could ultimately emerge as the leading DeFi, as the leading DeFi blockchain. And today we're going to explore some of those reasons why. So let's start with each of our panelists first giving a brief intro, and then we'll just dive right into the discussion. Maybe Alex, you want to start?
Sure. Yes. Thank you, Dara. My name is Alex Davis. I'm the head of innovation at Tezos Israel, a grantee of the Tezos Foundation, and the little bit of a soft announcement of the CEO and founder of Maverick Finance, a decentralized finance platform on Tezos. Thank you for having us.
Excellent. Dibyo?
Hi everyone, this is Dibyo, and I'm the co-founder of BuildPad. So BuildPad is an IDO launchpad on Tezos ecosystem, and we are empowering token-based projects and helping them to do pre-sales in the Tezos ecosystem.
Keefer?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Keefer. I work with a company called Hover Labs, and we build a number of DeFi protocols in Tezos land. We build Harbinger, which is a decentralized price feed. We build Colibri, which is the first algorithmic stablecoin on Tezos. And we're working on Murmuration, which is a generalizable DAO for Tezos as well.
Excellent. Bernd?
I must say that commercial at the beginning was pretty epic.
It was.
Yeah, well, no, I'm co-founder of Plenty, and also Tezos and Tezos India. Well, Plenty is a decentralized yield farm on Tezos, and we became the #1 DeFi application in just a few weeks on Tezos. So it's been a crazy few weeks.
Excellent. I see that we're missing Kevin, but I guess we'll jump in because he should be joining us momentarily. Maybe there may be some technical difficulties there. But let's start, maybe, Bernd, you could kick it off with just giving a little bit of a summary of the Tezos blockchain and what sets it apart.
Well, the last sentence of the position paper of Alan Goodman of a few years ago summarizes it perfectly, where he writes, Tezos aims to be the last cryptocurrency. So it's built in a way that you can upgrade it. So we've already had 6 successful upgrades, and we're on our 7th. And that's more than the entire industry combined, how much they've upgraded so far. And
I think ETH has had more hard forks than we've had upgrades.
Yeah. But hard forks, it sucks that the chain gets forked. But the thing that really sucks is that your community gets forked. So on Ethereum, you now have 2 camps. You have Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. But on Tezos, we try to keep everyone on the same boat and keep rowing in the same direction.
Excellent. So we've all seen some of the growth, the exponential growth that the Tezos DeFi blockchain has been experiencing over the last couple of weeks. Smart contract calls were already up well over 1,000% in 2021 alone. What do you all ascribe to this massive growth? Other than the general enthusiasm, in the marketplace, in early spring. And maybe Alex, you want to kick it off with that. And actually, Kevin just joined on. Kevin, want to just give a brief 30-second intro, and then we'll get right into the questions. You missed nothing yet.
Sure. Hi. What? My name is Kevin Mehrabi. I founded Stable Tech, which builds layer 1 DeFi solutions on the Tezos, as well as Wealth Chain. Yes, so we built USD Tez, ETH Tez, TezX, and now we're coming out with TezFin.
Excellent. All right, Alex, kick it off. What's with all this massive growth? What's going on here?
So yeah, I mean, look, it's basically about time. There's been a lot that's been building behind the scenes in Tezos, as we know, with Bernd and Plenty, and Keefer and Hover Labs, and Luke, of course. I don't want to keep him out of that. And especially, I think the NFTs have really kicked off really what has been going on with these massive increases in contract calls. Nukt and Calamint have skyrocketed the amount of interactions with Tezos. And if you look at the total amount of transactions on an actual platform, Nukt, Latin for here and now, so people abbreviate as HEN, has more users and more transactions than OpenSea on Ethereum. So it is that's really kicked it off for us. But besides for that, there are plenty of DeFi applications that are just kicking it off and getting moving. Plenty as one of the examples. Calibri being another. Maverick, soon to be coming into the field. Keefer, I've spoken to you about it a while ago under a different name. We've rebranded, and I think that's really what's gotten this kicked off and started. I'm sure we'll get into the reasons as to why Tezos in just a moment.
I think as well, there's a lot of quality of life improvements that happened for developers over the last year. So there's been a lot of work to lower gas costs on the network. There's been a lot of work to make the RPCs more developer friendly. I know I contributed code to the protocol to allow us to inject larger smart contracts. And the tooling in general has just kind of developed. And all that is to say is that building a platform and a language like Nicholson from scratch is hard, right? It's not something that you do in a few months. And so it's taken a little bit of time for this tooling to develop over other competitors who maybe just have EVM code and can kind of take all of the EVM tooling already and just slap it onto their chain. And so I think that developer friendliness of Tezos is rapidly increasing and has made very big strides in the last 6 to 12 months.
And on that front, I think because this is something anybody can relate to in the NFT space, which takes up a lot of the crypto conversation overall now, you're probably familiar with IPFS and the chain that's on and how long of a development project that's been, or maybe you're not, but it's something that no matter what chain you're on, you're probably using that as your file system. Well, few people know that the crowd sale for that overall project was just 1 month after Tezos in 2017, but they didn't go live with anything that was production level until late last fall, which goes to show that good things take time, especially including Tezos. And yeah, so I think a year ago we had 3 tokens on Tezos. That was it, and we didn't have any wallets that were supporting Tezos tokens, really, block explorers, anything like that. But that infrastructure was built over time, and then so now we're hitting this crescendo period, this tipping point where all that and so much more, as Keefer was mentioning, on the developer front, that's been opened up, to which we can start to see the fruits of that labor. And the first level on that front was the NFTs, and now we're starting to see blossoming in the DeFi front as well.
To build on that just a tiny bit, because Kevin, you had a really good point on the infrastructure kind of coming up. The last year and a half has been instrumental for Tezos, but something that we tend to forget from a developer and entrepreneurial standpoint is the fact that the rest of the world matters, and it's been Corona. So Tezos launched in I think mainnet went live in 2018, and in early 2020, the last year and a half has been Corona for the most part. And our infrastructure for getting things released didn't really start until Corona started. And so all of this development happened during a period of global pandemic, which is not really, I don't know. Yeah, in Israel, at least we hit 25% unemployment, and the United States went into a horrible position. Bernd and Dibyo, you guys are in Europe and India respectively. And there was a lot of, it's not the most conducive for building in general when it comes to businesses, but when it comes to technology, it actually allowed us to push forward and actually focus and build rather than get stuck with markets, etc., and yada yada. But a lot of what has happened in Tezos occurred over this time span of incredible strife, I would have to say. And so with the future of building on Tezos is going to come in a dramatic upswing of the world getting back on track. Our infrastructure is there, and I'm really excited to see what happens going forward.
That's a great point. The one thing I will say, though, is that plagues do give innovators a chance to innovate, and really focus on that. So we could look at the bright side of a global pandemic. So, mainstream media has recently glommed onto this whole notion that cryptocurrencies are bad for the environment, notwithstanding the fact that, cryptocurrencies use a quarter of the energy that the conventional banking system uses. But that's, I guess, a story for another day. That's it. Maybe you guys could talk a little bit about why you think that Tezos' more energy efficient approach may help it garner, mass mainstream adoption quicker.
I'd like to address that. I've given a few talks on this specifically recently. It should be clear that the networks of activity for whether it's Ethereum or Tezos, like that actual internet side of things, that's already green. The problem, the energy consumption, comes from the way in which Ether, for example, or Bitcoin, for example, not harking on them, but the way in which it's produced. It involves this competitive system called hash mining, and you've probably seen images of people with these massive rigs or warehouses, and then with all these chips strung together, and then all the energy that takes to power that. And that has to increase exponentially over time as people compete with each other. The difference is with Tezos and the direction that Ethereum is going, is that proof of stake doesn't do any of that at all. The economic system in which the coin is produced and distributed is green. It's, for all intents and purposes, carbon neutral. So it's not like it's an improved system. And this is even those that are trying to report. I think it's important to correct this, because those who would maybe even, I read a lot of articles speaking about the greener nature of Tezos, or what about these more energy efficient ways of doing what crypto does, as though it's on the same spectrum. It's not. It's a night and day, apples and oranges, completely different. That whole system is gone. And at that point, it says the energy consumption is as, it's too cheap to meter in that regard. That would warrant any concern. It's virtually nothing at that point. So I think that for any proof of stake blockchain, I think that's a great future, because as Cambridge reports in real time, the amount of energy consumption annually of Bitcoin mining alone is nearly 1%. Now, as you mentioned, yes, it is less than the traditional banking system, but also the traditional banking system, manages maybe 100 times more in cash, trillions of dollars, maybe $100 trillion, and also hundreds of quadrillions of dollars. And we're very early with Bitcoin and Ethereum and these proof of work systems. And the point is the energy consumption grows exponentially. That's the key. Where are we going to be in 5 years or 10? If it's going at this rate, we will definitely get to a point where Bitcoin mining would get over 99% of annualized energy consumption globally.
Well, Bitcoin deserves a separate section, but Ethereum is now upgrading to proof of stake. Well, it's been a few years, but that already shows the problem of upgrading a network. And what I said in the beginning is that when you make a system that's ready for the future, those upgrades cycles become a lot easier. And we see that with Ethereum now in the last few years. It's been a hell of a task upgrading Ethereum from proof of work to proof of stake. And that's a problem that Tezos will never have.
So, that's part of, I guess I'm going to build on what Bernd and Kevin said. Upgrading Ethereum has been a nightmare. I feel like Ethereum has been, with all due respect, built for developers and not for humans, and not to cross that chasm into mainstream adoption. And part of the way that I see that is that there was one moment where Ethereum decided to do an upgrade, and they upgraded over the weekend, and they had problems because no one updated their nodes. And then they upgraded over Christmas, and then no one updated their nodes. And then they updated over New Year's right after, and no one updated their nodes. And it's just been one hellhole after another with Ethereum. And it's taking at least, let's say, 3 to 5 years to get to where Tezos has already been for at least 3 as of today, from where I'm speaking. So with that being said, to again build on what Bernd said in the beginning of this chat, with Tezos we have upgrades every 3 months. Even the founder of Polkadot came and said the only blockchain that is actually giving people in a decentralized manner the updates that they expect on a normal process has been Tezos, and we were able to do that with on-chain governance. Now, to build on what Kevin said, a little bit of a teaser slash exposure here, because I have to be very careful about what I say with a leg in both sides of both the Tezos worlds, is Tezos is so efficient. When you think about Bitcoin using the entire amount of power of nation states, entire nation states, we are working on a project to do a road trip with a Tezos node validator called a bakery in an electric vehicle from one city to another, calling it a Model X/TZ. So Model XTZ. You can kind of guess what we're aiming at with the vehicle brand, but the project is slated just to show off how efficient Tezos is, that not only can you run a node / miner, if you want to like equate the two, is that it's so efficient you could run it in an electric vehicle while on a road trip across the country. So when it comes to energy efficiency, yeah, I'd pretty much say we're there.
Pretty epic.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. How about with respect to transaction speed compared to Ethereum? Who wants to tackle that?
Who wants to show off Granada? Guys, come on.
So
Keefer, can you hit this? You've been on Agora about the latest updates quite a ton.
Yeah, sure.
Transaction speeds.
Yeah, Tezos is going to move to 30-second block times, which is pretty cool. So the actual consensus mechanism is going to get updated as part of governance. And so we're moving from one style of Nakamoto consensus, which is the longest blockchain, is the canonical chain, to a slightly modified version, which uses more endorsements and is still Nakamoto style consensus. But the cool thing is that this is a stepping stone to Tezos migrating to a BFT algorithm that offers us really interesting things, like even faster block times and really faster instant finality. And that kind of upgradability is super cool. And it's also it's a thing that is only available in proof of stake, right? Like BFT systems aren't feasible to implement in a proof of work mining network. So I personally don't give much credence to the Bitcoin wastes energy narrative. I think Bitcoin will probably always exist, and I think that's okay. But I do think that proof of stake offers a bunch of interesting benefits with regards to finality and block time, and in particular, like predictable block times and throughput that make it more advantageous than proof of work systems.
So with all these advantages, can the Tezos blockchain become the predominant blockchain for DeFi and overtake Ethereum? And if it can, what's the time frame that you guys could see that happening in?
I'd say it's not a matter of if, but when. I'd say, I believe, I'll put this out, I believe we're in the tens of millions of dollars in TVL right now, looking at say 50 billion-ish, somewhere between 50 and 90 billion for Ethereum. I'd say we get to the billions this year. I'd say we'd be in tens of billions next year. But already we've started to see the margin of difference between Tezos and Ethereum start to get smaller and smaller. It's 1 for every 4 transactions on Ethereum. We have a Tezos transaction now, and that's getting even closer and closer. We've already seen in just whole industries on the NFT front. There was a point, I think it still is the point, in which the amount of daily active users of one marketplace on Tezos is more than every major NFT marketplace on Ethereum combined. I mean, it was seen as like this is this mighty a fortress called Ethereum. I mean, they already won. They have the runaway effects and whatnot. No, it's really small. Ethereum has 600,000 daily active users. That's not very much. We think it's so big, but it's not very much. And even with the high gas fees, that's when they were going up in the amount of transactions. But you can Google it, see it live for yourself. So I think the tide is already turning. It's just there's always this lag behind when I think the mainstream conversations start to fill out, because people are still gathering the data and saying, oh, okay, yeah, this is real. You can just look at any other fundamental metrics of Tezos network and just see the amount of massive growth that's been happening over the last 6 to 8 months, and you'll see how real this is. And to add on to what Keefer was saying, the fundamental nature of Tezos, what makes it so great and why it is so great, is that on-chain governance. It's the fact that we don't need to do these hard forks, which lead to contentious hard forks, which lead to really just breakdowns in developer turnover, which kind of negates the advantages of having a developer-friendly language that it was built on, as Alex was mentioning, whereas Tezos took the long hard road, using a language OCaml built by mathematicians for mathematicians. But yeah, this upgradability has led to faster block times. It's not just the fact that we're going to 30 seconds, but we have a fundamental technology now and that shift, which will lead to transaction times of potentially less than a second. And as we've been increasing the amount of transactions per second, I think every metric that people are looking for, we got it or we soon will.
That's great. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the projects that are on the Tezos blockchain. And Bernd, I want to start with you because, Kevin, you talk a little bit about some of the stats there. And just as far as the numbers, I read this morning, Plenty collected over 10 million in total value locked within just a week of the launch, which was just a couple of weeks ago, and has now handled over 80,000 transactions and generated 1,430 unique active wallets. I mean, that's pretty tremendous growth in a very, very short period of time.
Please keep going. Yeah. Sounds good.
Is this a sign of things to come for DeFi apps building on Tezos?
I think so, yeah. It was the perfect storm for us, actually. We started building like 2 months ago. And we saw this opportunity together with Draper, Goren, Holm. And we just started building, and we just wanted to launch something as soon as possible because it looked like the Tezos market was ready for it. And we were right. And now Plenty became the number one DeFi application on Tezos in no time. Today we hit 20 million TVL, $20 million TVL. So my mind is blown. So I'm super excited for the next few weeks, even the next few days, because there are multiple applications popping up. Like, for example, Crunchy Network last week launched. They are close to 10 million TVL already. So more and more applications are popping up. But I think the big the floodgates will really open when we all open source our stuff. Open source all our smart contracts, our UI, our APIs, everything, and then everybody can just fork everyone's code and just start building for themselves. And then so many new projects will come on Tezos, and it's going to be epic.
I think part of the epicness that's about to hit the Tezos blockchain is not necessarily just the openness of it and what's about to come, but the amount of companies and protocols and platforms that have reached out to us at Tezos Israel regarding, hey, we've had problems with ETH. We've been thinking about coming to another chain. What can we do to come over? Has been, and I'm not even talking about Maverick. And we're all of us here are founders or co-founders or working in some form of DeFi platform on Tezos. We see the numbers. I mean, there's no how do I say this? With all the honor to you, as we say in Hebrew, kol hakavod, Bernd, the TVL on Plenty has been outrageously successful. Another metric that I don't think is really looked at because you can't quantify it on chain is simply the amount of people that have reached out to different Tezos entities. And I know just interpersonally who's reached out to us at Tezos Israel, looking out to transfer from EVM style blockchains or ETH itself onto Tezos. And we are overloaded with work in terms of converting, so to say, platforms over to Tezos. So it's not just us who are, let's say, the entrepreneurs and the people putting our lives on the line, in a sense, not lives, but our careers and time and blood, sweat, and tears into building all these things. And God knows, Kevin, you've been doing it for a while, from the very beginning.
And I think
we have people jumping to come to Tezos.
Yeah. And I think, and to add to that, I mean, completely, like I feel that on the ground every day, and all the developers feel the same way. And to add to what Bernd was saying, I think the scaling will really come once we are DeFi cycle complete. That's a very key takeaway. I think, if nothing else, I think should be from what I'm saying. Like, if one would take away is that we need to be DeFi cycle complete, and that'll happen once we have a decentralized lending system on Tezos. So we're working on ours. There are a number of outfits out there working on them. So we have Tezos Finance, Tezfin. So that'll be out in the next few weeks. And a lot of the advancements that Keefer was talking about that recently came, that's what's enabled it. And that goes to show just how now we have the product, the people, the money, and all the technology that's coming to a head right now in a clear position.
Keefer, I saw a smirk there. I saw a smirk. I'm really wondering what that smirk was. Kevin mentioned DeFi cycle complete and lending, and then all of a sudden you smiled in this ever little hidden way.
Spill the beans. Spill the beans.
Tell us now.
I think I know a lot.
We're getting the wrap up sign, but I'd love to continue this conversation because we want to really talk more about where this is going to go, especially with institutional adoption and mainstream adoption. I think that's where it's headed. So this was really great start, and I'd love to continue the talks, at some other forum afterwards, because this was really great and I really appreciate all the insights. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dara.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Dara. Thank you, Draper, Goren, Holm, for having us.